case people haven't got the picture on it, is, well, why do developers care where these schools are? Well, I had a quote from Ed Hightower at one of the warden meetings. He says, he quote said, one thing that everyone around Warden should like is that putting this school here is going to ignite growth. Guess what? No one there in the audience cares about igniting growth. But it's clear that the superintendent who is representing the school board, they think it is. They think that's part of school policy, placement of school. Getting back to the side issue in that is why do developers want schools to be where they are? There's several reasons. You put a school in a location, parents moving into the area have kids, they want their kids to be near school, boom. The property value of all the surrounding real estate goes up. If you're a developer in that area, you're trying to sell your projects, putting a school right there is an excellent way of increasing your profit. And guess what? It's not a taxpayer expense. It cuts down the amount of money you have to invest in the area. The taxpayers are building the school for you. And there's other perks for getting these schools in these areas. You put a school in an area, and all you have to do is look at Liberties to see how this has happened. Government money comes along and improves the road to your development area. The school's paying for the laying out of sewer lines and utilities to the area, so you don't have to put that cost in. It is terrific for business when they can direct where those schools are being put. The school board has to be very conscientious that influence is not affecting these decisions for school. And if you take the big picture of the location of these schools, the sizes of them, how it's being done, the backing of the Yes Committee with business funds, you got to just take a pause and say, you know, should I be concerned? Last thing I really want to go through is looking at the advantages and disadvantages of how we're doing things right now. The referendum's the focus, but as I've mentioned, this way we have of determining school policy affects all levels of how our schools are being run. It's really obvious when you look at the referendum issue and the building thing, but it's really hitting the core of how we're doing a lot of school policy. Advantages for building the new schools as they are. Number one, if you're a parent and you have kids, they're building you a new school. Nothing is better for a parent to know that their kid's going to go to a brand new school someplace when it first opens. It won't matter where they are. They'll be glad that they're being built a new school. So that's a good advantage for these schools that are being built. We've had some schools in our district being really crowded. I'm pretty dubious that they had to be crowded, but they're crowded. This is going to relieve that crowding, even though I think it's artificially created. We wouldn't have to have these schools crowded if we had changed boundaries and did some other things, but I think it was politically advantageous to crowd the schools a little bit. And there's the argument, the sooner you build schools, the cheaper they are. That's always true. But every time you do that, your taxes go up. So that's a disadvantage. It's cheaper to build them, but boy, your taxes go up sooner. Now, take the disadvantage of this referendum. We are not just coming up with solutions in the short term for my kid gets to be in a new school in the next coming years. These schools are going to be an integral part of the school district for the next 50 to 100 years. You have to be looking at the big picture. If you're just looking short term, you're wrong. We're building these schools that are too big. Well, if they're too big, I guess sometime we can come there and knock off a few classrooms. We can fix that later. Go ahead and build them. No. You build the school is too big, you're stuck with it. Yeah, we're going to build the schools off in the southeast corner of the district. Eventually they'll have houses around there. 75 to 85% of the area around that school will never have an Eversville student in it. That is forever. Wouldn't you want to have this in a central location serving the population of elementary students up there? Apparently that's not a priority. This school is stuck way up in the northeast corner of the district. I think there's, for some reason, we like to put schools in the edge. I don't know why that is. I can't make any sense of it, but we're sticking a brand new school way up in Warden for a huge region that we're serving. The smart thing would have been is to pull the map out and say, where is the central spot of this region? And guess what? It's Holiday Shores. And guess what? That's really fortunate, because Holiday Shores has public water, has public sewer, it has good roads to the area. And the other point is, it's a very dense student population. You put a school there, there's a lot of kids that are going to be really close to it. It wasn't even explored. Does that make sense? Why not? It doesn't make sense to me. It sure sends up warning flags to me. And I can tell you it wasn't explored because I, until December, was a trustee on a Holiday Shores sanitation district that supplies the sewer to the area, that supplies the water. And we discussed, do we have the capacity, should a public school need to be built up here? We actually have thought of it on sanitation district, the three of us, and discussed it, because we knew that's a real possibility in the future. School district, the growth committee, I don't know what they're thinking. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The other thing I want to bring up at Warden School, and I really want to talk to the people who live up in the northern region. You have to be thinking about this. I mean, I think you must be really excited. The school board had an epiphany. Last spring, they could care less what was happening in Warden. They're doing all this building. They weren't doing anything for Warden, which is one of our older schools, which does have some life safety issues. There were no plans for it. We're building new schools down south because that's the important part of the district. You know, you have to recognize we have a class system in this district. The southern district seems to get a little bit more than the northern district. So here we come this year. School board has an epiphany and they're building a brand new school for the northern region. People are happy. My kids are now going to get to go to a much better school. The alternative school is being moved out where we have kids who are having more problems right next to elementary school. That's being moved out. This is wonderful. This is terrific. But there's some other issues for everybody who's living up north you must be considering. And I've already mentioned one of them. Why are we blue and putting the school in Warden? One of my neighbors was talking about it. He used the term idiotic. It just doesn't make any sense. But there's other things to consider. Remember when I was talking about educational size? In the northern region, it's nice because Midway's not a very big a school. It's got a nice small student population. It's one of the top performing educational models when you do testing of all the schools in the district. Hamel the same way. Another nice small school, not too huge. I can't remember the exact count, but they're well under 400. Great schools. This proposal is to build a 20 classroom school. They want to build a big school. They don't want to build neighborhood schools. They want to build a big school. Why didn't ever consider that we keep Warden open? Do life safety as need to be there? Use that as a neighborhood school and build that educational elementary school in Holiday Shores to serve that population as a neighborhood school. That handles all the concerns, but it does it in a sensible manner. We need some sense. And I know all the people north that says, hey, we're going to have a new school, we got to seize it because this board doesn't like us, doesn't treat us good. I submit to you this is not good enough. And another reason for you to realize this is this new school in Warden. They're building this new elementary school, right? It's cost $8 million. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Then how come when they build the elementary schools in Edwardsville, they're spending $17 million on those schools? Well, that's because there's a class system here. You spend $17 million for elementary schools when you're down in Edwardsville and Glen Carbon, but up north, it's a different class. $8 million will do fine. We can get by with that. If you guys don't realize this is a big slap in the face, I don't know what it would take. We have to change the school board. We have to end the prejudice. We have to get some sense in how to do anything, and we have to put equal opportunity for children instead of for special interest. For this referendum is not a referendum on our tax rate. It's a referendum to tell them they can tax us whatever rate they need to collect the taxes. And they are being disingenuous, in my opinion, to say that they really think it's likely that your tax rate's not going to go up. It's going to go up, and your taxes are going to go up.